the reaction of the album, I have seen this album in my timeline probably more than I've seen any other band in the last month. And what do you think? I mean, I have my own theory, but I want to hear what you think. Why do you think this album is not only being received very positively by about 95% of the people out there, but why do you think that because if you look at my social media timeline, I see this record everywhere. I see a review, I see some kind of interview, I see something that is pertaining to what you guys are going to be putting out here in April with this record. And why do you think, did you expect a reaction like this? And why do you think people really are resonating with this record so much?
Me? Okay.
Your turn. I did the last
one. I can only speculate. I mean, I've heard good opinions ranging from "it's really good, bro" to it has a heavier, grittier sound, which is something that typical American audiences are more receptive to. I don't know. I can say from my experience, I had, to be honest, zero expectations with Beholder, and that's not a negative thing. It's just my expectation was, this is badass. I love it. And I just thought, I've been in other projects, whether they're longer term or one-offs. And so often is the case, you put a lot of energy into it. It makes a spark and it's really cool for like a month or maybe a year. And then it kind of goes back down and gets it's a footnote or whatever. So, it's been interesting because like I said, Judicator's my baby. But we've never really blown up or something like that. So I can tell you that in my experience, having been in the music industry, the underground metal music industry, I guess, for 13, 14, 15 years, this has been the album that I have seen the most buzz about. And, case in point, the music video for Pale Blood Sky is has the highest view count on YouTube of any other music video I've done. And Carlos tells me these little whispers of things that might happen or could possibly happen. This person said this person said that. So I don't know what the future holds for Beholder. It could be a lot, it could be a little, but it looks like big things could happen, which would be fantastic. I never would have expected my fortunes to go with a doom metal band. That wasn't on my bingo card, but
doom metal band.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun, and it has been really engaging as an artist and a creative person to take a foray into a totally different, not only music genre and vocal approach, but also a totally different audience. That's one thing I've had a secret desire is to see what other genre audiences are like, because I've just been in power metal forever. And I know the power metal audiences, all of their pluses and minuses. And so, this is scratching a lot of itches for me, and I'm very excited to see what we can do with it.
Yep. And just to follow up on that, it's, again, there were zero expectations. This was legit just something to do for fun. I had some riffs and I wanted to write a bunch of songs and have it, be about classic Dungeons and Dragons and doing a certain style. And there are no expectations about how anybody might receive it. But me being who I am, if I'm going to do anything, I'm always going to try to put my best foot forward. So it was very important to me, regardless of whether this was, intended to be a thing or just a fun thing. I still wanted it to, I didn't know if I was ever going to do another Beholder album. So I wanted to make sure that whatever was done for this was going to be the best that could reasonably be done. And so, that's why it was important to put all that extra time into pre-production, making sure that, you know, the lyrics had to be perfect, the melody lines had to be perfect, the riffs had to be perfect, that drum fill from 333 to 334 had to be perfect, but not to the point of choking the life out of anything, because it was still always fun. The whole creative process was fun. But then when it came to like, okay, well, you know, I think at one point somebody even was like, well, you're going to mix her. I'm not mixing. I'm not touching this. I put so much of myself into the writing of this. It's got to be somebody unbiased, neutral, you know, whatever, third party. And given the nature of the music, I love the band Sorcerer. Fantastic doom metal band, very similar in style musically, and even vocally too. And I just reached out to Ronnie Bjornstrom about, you know, would he be interested in mixing this? I didn't know if he would be or not, but he's a guy that's worked on the last handful of Sorcerer albums, and those things sound banging. And right away he was like, yeah, bro, send me some demos. Let me hear what you're working with. I sent him a couple of the pre-pro demos, and he was like, fuck, bro, this is going to be huge. And I'm like, okay, I appreciate it, but you already got my money, so you don't have to, you know what I mean? But the thing I love about Ronnie, man, you find out within 2 minutes that dude is as sincere as it gets, and he wasn't blowing smoke up anybody's ass. He was genuinely enthusiastic about what he was hearing, and so that translated into, okay, well, do we, you know, find a bargain basement, you know, Fiverr artist, or do we get someone with a name and with talent to back it? So I've always been a fan of Sophia's work with Powerwolf and stuff, so reached out to her, and she actually got right back to me. So everything kind of fell in line with all of these really highly talented people to kind of round out everything that we were putting all this effort and time into to try to create the best possible version of itself that it could be. And so the sound quality, the artwork that comes with it, the actual music itself, I think is all the best it can be. And to loop back around to what you originally asked, I think maybe that's why it's resonating with people also, because I think maybe people, there's, you know, I'm not knocking any bands that do this, but we're not actually dressed up like, you know, knights and wizards and shit like that. Okay. There's no gimmick to this. We're just 5 normal dudes. Okay. Right. And we're just trying to show that we put out something that we actually believe in and that we're proud of. And I think that kind of, I guess, sounds a little corny, but that kind of honesty, I think, sort of resonates with people. I think. Anyway, so there you go.
Well, that was a partial answer to my question, but my question for you is...
One of us got the actual answer?
I have the answer. Okay. I can tell you why. I just wanted to see what you would say to that question. The reason that the album is because there's a lot of people that put out a lot of great records, because I get a lot of great records sent to me on a daily basis. The reason it is being hyped and it is resonating so much with so many different people is because you have a lot of media outlets that want to really promote this album. And the reason behind that is because of you guys. Now, what do I mean by that? I've done this for 27 years, and I can tell you that it doesn't matter how big or how small the media outlet is. Anytime someone talks about this band, it's in our timeline. There's a review. There's a link back to that media website. It could be somebody with 1 follower. It could be somebody with 1 million. You guys have the attitude to do whatever it takes to really promote this thing, and there is no media outlet too big or small for you to acknowledge that talk about the record. And I can tell you what hinders a lot of bands out there, and I've actually done discussions about this, is the fact that, you know, for example, you have a band that nobody's ever heard of, and they'll make all these demands of the publicist, and, you know, a lot of these bands won't talk to anybody but, say, like a really large website. Let's say, I don't know, let's say Blabbermouth, right? But the problem is these websites are not interested in these bands because nobody knows who they are, and they are not willing to put the work in. And you guys have been willing to do that. Every single post that comes through my timeline that has anything to do with this band in particular, specifically, is a post about a review that you receive I've looked up some of these websites. Some of them have big followings. Some of them really do not. But you acknowledge every single one of them. And that one person, let's say you got a follower of one person for somebody's podcast, that one person's going to tell 10 other people, man, these guys are great. These guys are cool. You acknowledge that one person, and you guys are promoting this thing the way most bands should be doing it. You are willing to put the work into it. And I can tell you, there aren't very many bands out there willing to do that. And that, you can have a quality product all you want, but if you want people to hype you up and get into you, what you're doing now is actually a big part of why this band is resonating, because now everybody's talking. You have a lot more people talking about it and checking out the record, because a lot of all these people are saying positive things about you. And you guys are a big reason as to why, not just the music, but I'm talking about your willingness to promote it. And you do that right more than most bands do. Your reaction to that is what? Like, how would you, do you agree with me?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you in so much as it's not a calculated response.
Mm-hmm.
It's just showing appreciation.
Yeah.
So if that webzine with one follower takes the time to listen to the album and to write a review on it, I don't care if it's 2 sentences, that's somebody took their time to at least give a little bit of attention to what it is we're doing.
Yeah.
So what's the absolute least one of us can do is to show a little bit of appreciation for that, and to thank them, and to spread the word for their webzine or for their podcast or
sure,
whatever, I mean, it's just.
Do you know how many bands do not do that?
Listen, do you know how old I am? I mean,
you're probably close to my age, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be 51 in about a month and a half. So
you got me by 4 years.
Yeah. So I'm still operating under the mindset of back in the day, mm-hmm. when everything was word of mouth and actual, like, legit friendly networking.
Yeah.
Not trying to shove somebody else down so that you could stand a little taller. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was actually about creating a scene. Now, I don't think the irony is lost on me trying to create a scene in an area where all of us are spread out in different scenes across the country.
Sure.
But because of since the advent of social media, a place like Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, whatever, I don't know, I don't do that one, but any of these type of social media platforms, they are common ground when it comes to music, because mm-hmm. everybody, here we are, he's halfway across the country, okay, and you're in the middle, between him and I, and here we are, all bullshitting, talking about music and stuff, you know what I mean? And yeah. So I think back in the day, it was more about kind of creating that kind of scene and everybody lifting each other up. And that wasn't just the bands. That was the small, the print zines, the people that would go to, whatever, like the copy places or some Kinko's or some shit, and would, hand copy these hand numbered little, fanzines and hand them out at shows or whatever. And you're not going to have that kind of stuff now, but you have similar things. And so if those people with smaller followings are going to show respect to your work by listening to it and doing you a solid by doing a review of it and saying some positive words or just sharing it with some of their followers, like I said, the least any of us can do is to respond to that and to thank them and to try to share that page or whatever in kind.
I would say too, as people who labor obsessively over our crafts individually and as a band, I would much rather share and put a spotlight on a blog that really ingested what we made and produced something thoughtful and unique than to share an A-list publication that just copy and pasted our press release. I despise that. I despise seeing our press release just copy and pasted. So to me, I don't really care about viewership or audience or anything like that, because I never have gotten into this for money. It's always been for other more internal reasons. And so to see is somebody who's a big shot or a little guy actually engaging with something that we labor over and care about, that's what matters to me more than the clout of we got shared by X, Y, or Z A-list publication.
Carlos, so let me give you a good example of this. I had never heard John's band before, the other band, Judicator. I sent him a message to say I'm going to check it out. He sent me a message, a 2-minute voice message on Messenger, like literally thanking me to do that. You know how many bands go out of their way to do that? Not very many. If it's somebody, I don't even know John that well at all. So I've had bands do that. Don't get me wrong. But very few do that. I would say probably 10% of them might do that. And I could tell you that there are bands that probably are less known than Beholder is right now that would never do that. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is that the fact that this record, you mentioned the cover art's phenomenal. I think the mix on the album and the production for the most part is pretty good. But you were willing to go the extra step. A lot of people are not. And that is part of the reason. I mean, the quality of the record and the songs are obviously, they trump everything. But the fact that you have people getting behind this the way that they have, because I can't even begin to tell you the last time I had a band where they had like a debut album that I've seen this much in my timeline ever. So the reason I'm bringing it up is I do bring these topics up on the show every once in a while. And I just think that the way that you do this and how you acknowledge everybody that talks about the record, I think is great. And I think that's part of the reason you're getting a lot of hype because of this. And because you are willing to put the work in. Nobody is too big or small for you. It's all about, hey, if someone checks my album out, and this is one of the biggest bottlenecks. I can't even begin to tell you how many bands can be like this. I had a whole discussion on my show about this, actually, about this kind of thing. But you guys are doing things the right way. And that's really what I wanted to kind of, I agree with all of what you're saying about the album. What I'm saying is that what takes it a step further is what you guys are doing right now.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's not a calculated response or anything. It's just showing genuine appreciation for people. Sure. Showing, interest. So,
yeah. And you've had positive, I'm going and looking at these reviews. I don't really see any, nobody's giving it like a 1 out of 10. I think the album is, I haven't heard a debut album in a very long time where I can go and be like, this is pretty awesome, and that always leaves you pressure for the next album though. So yeah. But I really think that you guys really hit it really, as I said in the review, you guys kind of knocked it out of the park. I know a lot of Europeans have no clue what I mean by that. But generally speaking, I think you have. So, hey everybody, Tony here from the Metal Command podcast. Again, I appreciate your support. Since 1998, I have hosted this show in one form or another, starting off in radio and now in the podcast format. Again, thanks for watching. And if you like what you see and hear on this show, by all means, please hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell to be notified anytime I do post a video. And if you see this program on any other form of social media, please give me a follow there. Again, I always appreciate your support.